Hey there guys, I'm Campea. Thanks for visiting my movie vlog, and this is my quick review of, wouldn't you know it, Cloverfield Paradox. Now it's funny because just a couple of weeks ago we thought Cloverfield, the next movie, was just going to come out in theaters released by Paramount, and now, woo, here we are, Netflix drops it after the Super Bowl. And look, let me say right off the top that reviewing a movie like Cloverfield Paradox is a little bit tough when you're not wanting to give away any spoilers. There are certain things I wish I could tell you, but there's a risk that some people may consider it a spoiler, so I'm going to try to stay kind of vague. The movie starts off by letting us, the audience, know that the world is in a state of desperate crisis. According to the film, the world only has 5 years left of energy of any kind. In response to this crisis, the international community comes together and they launch the Shepard space station, which has an experimental device on it, a particle accelerator, that if it works properly and they can get it going, will supply the world with all the energy it needs for the rest of time. And of course, how can you have a movie like this without the obligatory kind of mad scientist being interviewed on a TV news station warning the world that experimenting with a particle accelerator in space will rip open space-time and our world will be invaded by demons? Foreshadowing. So the crew goes up to the space station and they start their experiments and they fail, and they try again and they fail, and they fail and they fail and they fail, and now 2 years have passed. They're running out of time and they're getting ready to launch one more test. And of course, no movie is an actual movie unless something goes wrong. So something goes incredibly wrong, and now the crew find themselves in a dire situation facing a great mystery. I won't give away what the mystery is just in case some of you might consider it a spoiler. You just need to know they find themselves in an awful predicament. They got to figure out how to save themselves so they can go ahead and save the world. And you know, I gotta say, for a world in peril kind of movie that Cloverfield Paradox is, it kind of works on that level. You get brought in and really you buy in as an audience member pretty quickly. Yeah, the world is in a rough state of affairs. And as the world faces crisis, instead of coming together, global nations tend to turn on each other, and you start to feel that the clock is ticking. They need to get this done. The cast also does a great job really making you buy into the predicament, because if they don't deliver a good performance, maybe you don't buy into the panic and the mystery and the befuddlement of it all. So after the mishap happens, the crew slowly starts to realize, hey, more and more things aren't quite right. More and more things aren't wrong. These pieces of the puzzle aren't fitting together anymore, and you get drawn into that mystery as an audience member, and on that level, it works really well. So that's the biggest thing that Cloverfield Paradox has going for it. The basic underlying foundational premise. And then once they introduce the audience to the premise, they get you bought into it. And on that level, the movie works really well. The problem is, the movie doesn't do much more beyond the basic premise and revealing it to you as the audience. The one minor plot detail I'll give away that's a part of the setup of the movie is that after the mishap, all of a sudden there's a brand new crew member on board that they weren't expecting to see. But that's the deepest they go. Everything else just kind of just stays in line with the one basic premise of the movie. Not a lot of subplots to bring you along, not a lot of sub-stories to fill in the gaps and to flesh it out. And as a matter of fact, the biggest problem I have with Cloverfield Paradox is actually, some people might consider this a nitpick, but honestly, even once they reveal to you, the audience, what is happening, what the results of the mishap were, and you start to realize that the crew, as they're kind of uncovering all these strange things that are happening, these weird pieces of the puzzle that don't fit together, and a lot of those things are explained by the basic premise of the story about what went on, there are a number of weird things that happen on their space station that the basic premise of the movie does not explain at all. Here's an example. Okay, so let's say there was a movie being made where the mystery is that all of a sudden people started floating off the ground. Well, the movie then reveals to you that some evil magician has turned off the gravity to the earth. Okay, then, that basic premise explains why this mysterious thing of people floating off the ground is happening. But what it doesn't explain, saying that this evil magician turned off the gravity to the earth, is why that statue of Ronald McDonald suddenly came to life and started shooting lasers out of its eyes. And Cloverfield does that on a number of occasions. Like, okay, I get why that happened. That's explained by the basic premise. I get that. But then there's these 5 other things that are just really freaking kooky that your basic premise does nothing to explain. And on that level, it actually feels a little bit sloppy, and it's really too bad because the performances in it are great. Like I said, the underlying premises of the movie is great, but it just doesn't feel like it was thought out all the way through. Again, it's a little bit frustrating wanting to not give anything major away. That's why I can't go into it very deep. But look, here's the bottom line for me. Cloverfield Paradox, to me, is definitely worth a sit-down watch on Netflix. Like I said, the basic underlying premise really works, and that's the biggest chunk of the movie, really. It's once they get into the details that I found that the movie gets a little bit sloppy and kind of lacks any interest by adding any other story elements to give any more depth beyond the basic premise. Still, it's worth sitting down and watching. I think a bunch of you'll get a kick out of it. It's just not the special film that I was kind of hoping it would be. But the question is, what do you think? Did you have a chance to sit down and watch Cloverfield Paradox on Netflix yet? If so, what did you think? Jump down into the comments section, no spoilers of course, and let me know what you thought of the movie. Anyway, that'll do it for me, guys. Thanks a lot for joining me for this quick review of Cloverfield Paradox. My name's Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.